Wednesday evening, Donald Trump announced that Hamas and Israel had both agreed to the ceasefire agreement. He said that this is going to end the war. Again, I would call it a genocide, not a war. But I don't think they're going to try to end the genocide. And just now, there is breaking news that is very concerning. If you are an American, if you have family members in the military, if you're in the military, I don't trust this one bit. Let's go ahead and get into it. This is what I was warning people about, right? When people told me don't talk about foreign policy, just focus on domestic issues. And I told you that foreign policy also impacts issues here at home. Well, here we go. This just broke. U.S. to deploy 200 troops for Gaza task force with no operations on ground in Gaza. First of all, let me highlight this. This is bull. This is BS. This no operations on ground in Gaza. So I have seen this before. Many of us, Mary, were thinking the same thing. Mary said, I saw that before. Yeah, I've seen this before. And some of you have seen this before. We all know what can come from this. And my big concern, and I don't know, my big concern, some of those troops that go over there, depending on how they feel about Gazans or people who are Muslim, etc., what are they going to do to the Palestinian people? And if they do something to the Palestinian people, are they going to be held accountable? I would tell you no. I think we all saw what happened in Afghanistan. If you're older, let's go back to the war in Vietnam. You remember the story about the My Lai massacre, about U.S. troops that abused, sexually assaulted, and killed civilians in Vietnam. Had it not been for Seymour Hersh, we probably would have never heard about that. This is very troubling. And I, all the people who told me this would never happen, here we are. Let's get into this. Again, this news just broke. The U.S. will deploy 200 troops as part of a joint task force for Gaza stability, with no Americans on the ground in the Palestinian enclave, two senior U.S. officials said on Thursday. Again, I don't believe that. The officials speaking to reporters, they said that 200 would be core of the task force. That would include representatives from Egypt's military, Qatar, Turkey, and probably the UAE. This is a problem. This is a big problem. The official said U.S. troops' exact location had yet to be decided. Pause. So the location is yet to be decided, but you're telling them that they're not going to be on the ground. Goes on to say here, but they will develop a joint control center and integrate other security forces that will work in Gaza to coordinate with Israeli forces to avoid clashes. No U.S. troops are intended to go into Gaza, said one of the officials. Yeah, right. The official said it is hoped the Gaza deal, once set into motion, will cool tensions in the region and create conditions for negotiations on more normalization deals between Israel and Arab nations. So this is not good. I don't trust it. I don't think that you should trust it. U.S. troops, see, this is what I was saying. They have no reason to be there. No reason to be there at all. And if this is between Hamas and Israel, why are they sending U.S. troops? So let's just put this all together, folks. I'm old enough to remember the war in Iraq. I'm old enough to remember the government telling us that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. I remember them selling that war to us all based on a lie. So I don't trust any of this. There are some of you who are old enough to remember the war in Vietnam. You know where I'm coming from as well. I remember Afghanistan. The U.S. was there for 20 years. devastated Afghanistan. There are children that were starving in Afghanistan, still starving in Afghanistan because of our operations there. There can be no good from U.S. troops going there. And this is what I was afraid would happen at some point. We don't send U.S. troops to go make things better for the people who are suffering, the people who are oppressed, the people who are being genocided right now. We don't do that. When we send U.S. troops somewhere, it's usually to help the oppressor or to be the oppressor. Just like when Woodrow Wilson sent the Marines into Haiti. Kuwait, that's another example, Alexandria. I just feel so bad for the Palestinian people. I really do. But from my experience, some of us who remember Desert Storm, the war in Iraq, from my experience, nothing good would come from that. And I'm just waiting for all the people who told me there's no U.S. involvement to say something. Even though it's U.S. weapons, U.S. money that's been funding Israel. This comes about right after this so-called ceasefire was announced Wednesday evening from Donald Trump. This was the statement that he made here. And I said it last night, and some people told me that I was being pessimistic. I'm sorry. I don't trust Israel, and I don't trust the U.S. government when it comes to war. I just don't trust it. He said, I am very proud to announce that Israel and Hamas have both signed off on the first phase of our peace plan. This means that all of the hostages will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed upon line as the first steps toward a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. All parties will be treated fairly. This is false. I'll go ahead and show you the update about that as well. There is a great day for the Arab and Muslim world, Israel and all surrounding nations, and the U.S. And we thank the mediators of Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey who worked with us to make this historic and unprecedented event happen. Blessed are the peacemakers. So a lot of people are saying Donald Trump is trying to get like this Nobel Peace Prize. It's not going to happen. He already missed the cutoff for that anyway. But this is the statement here from the Gaza Hamas chief. Listen to what he said.
Happy to announce that we have reached a deal for ceasefire to put an end to the aggression and also to proceed to a permanent ceasefire and the withdrawal of the army and to allow the aid to enter to Gaza and to open the Rafah crossing from both sides. Happy to announce that we have.
Okay, that's coming from the chief leader there. So last night, a lot of people were pretty hopeful. And they were saying, okay, this is great. Both sides came to an agreement. There were kids here and they were joyfully excited. I was just thinking about this. Like, imagine being a kid and this is what you have to cheer for, that people will stop bombing you. But did Israel stop bombing them? Because, see, I knew this was going to happen. Now, Donald Trump is feeding people a lot of BS. In fact, listen to what he said here when he called into Fox News.
It's brought the whole world together. It's amazing. I've never seen anything. It's so good for Israel. I spoke to Bibi Netanyahu just a little while ago. He called. He said, I can't believe it. He said, everybody's liking me now. Meaning him. He said, I said, more importantly, they're loving Israel again. And they really are. I said, Israel cannot fight the world, baby. They can't fight the world. And he understands that very well. So it's amazing the way it's all come together. And it's a beautiful picture. I don't know if it could ever happen again. It was just a set of circumstances. Like, for instance, taking out the potential nuclear power of Iran. So many different things happened that were so amazing. It's a lot of talent involved, I'll tell you, but there is a certain degree of luck too. You know, you need luck also.
So first of all, again, so Donald Trump and Netanyahu are regulators. They're overseers. Netanyahu's an overseer there in Israel and also apparently in this country as well. And Donald Trump's an overseer here in the United States. And their job, especially with a situation like this, is to try to convince people that Israel isn't doing what they're doing, to downplay what Israel has been doing and is still doing, and to convince the American people, look, everything's on the up and up. You see, this is how this works. Everything's working out. Bibi told me people are starting to like Israel again. No, we don't. Because I'll tell you right now, if this all ended tomorrow, I still wouldn't like Israel. The genie is not going back into the bottle. But this is what they're doing. Remember, their job is to make you think that things are looking better. Things are on the up and up. And even when you see people like Marjorie Taylor Greene standing up against this, etc., when you see people like that speaking out, and now she's speaking about something else, I'll get to that. But when you see people pushing back and stuff like this, it's like, okay, people are complaining about the economy. People are noticing the prices aren't going down. Oh no, people's wages aren't going up. The genocide is still happening. So their job as the regulators, and they are overseers, but their job at this point in time is to make you think that one of these things is going well. And the reality is it's not. Z Squirrel is on it as usual. The new ceasefire deal is going to be a repeat of the January one. Trump will take credit and guarantee it. They let in some aid and get their sexual assault soldier prisoners out. Then they will restart the genocide again. And the new main line will be, we need Hamas to disarm, with Trump leading the charge on behalf of his masters. And this right here is another thing that worries me about him deploying American troops. Because I don't buy this whole thing of they won't be on the ground. We have heard that before. I feel like he's sending them there to prepare for something else. And they'll try to keep a lot of things from us, just like they tried to keep things from you about the Vietnam War. Just like they tried to keep things from us about the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. The war crimes that were committed by U.S. soldiers. Had it not been for Julian Assange, some of these things we probably still wouldn't know today. So this squirrel is on it once again. So let's get into this ceasefire a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about this. And then I want to show you something else.
Let's bring in ABC News White House correspondent Karen Travers and foreign correspondent Marcus Moore in Tel Aviv. Karen, what's the latest on the deal itself?
Diane, the president last night called this the first step toward a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. Now, this is important to note. It is just the first phase in this. And as you see there, all living hostages would be released held by Hamas. And there would also be a significant release of Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. And then the partial withdrawal of Israeli troops from the Gaza Strip.
Pause. First of all, Benjamin Netanyahu already said in Hebrew to Israelis that Israel is not leaving the Gaza Strip. We talked about that like a week or so ago. Second of all, notice how she describes the difference between the groups of people. The Israelis that are in Gaza are hostages, but the Palestinians that were kidnapped by Israel are prisoners. They're hostages. A lot of those prisoners, and this was released recently. Now I'm saying prisoners. A lot of those hostages that Israel captured from Gaza, civilians, innocent civilians. They had this process that they would do that if they can't capture whoever they wanted to capture, that they believed was a part of Hamas, they would take whoever they could grab. This is a known practice that they were doing. So notice how they don't call them hostages.
big thing that's happening in the next couple of hours is the Israeli government ratifying this agreement. We expect that to come in the next couple of hours. And at that point, the 72-hour clock would start, and then we could potentially see the release of the hostages likely on Monday. That is what President Trump was telling some of the families of the hostages when he spoke to them by phone last night. So this is a very significant step, but important to underline still, this is phase one. But as the president said last night, this is a very big moment for everybody involved.
Marcus, what does this agreement mean for humanitarian aid to Gaza?
Well, Diane, this could be a huge deal for the humanitarian situation there. The overall plan calls for the aid routes to be reopened and reestablished, perhaps to pre-war levels, which, as you know, that was about between 500 and 600 trucks every single day going into Gaza. Now,
pause. They just exposed themselves. He just admitted to you that Israel was not allowing aid in. Now, all this time, they have told you, and Benjamin Netanyahu has appeared on corporate media outlets and has also told you that Israel was not withholding aid, that they were allowing aid to enter, and that it was Hamas who was stealing the aid. But here we are on ABC News, and he just revealed to you that they weren't allowing aid in. Going a little bit more here.
it's unclear right now the specific details of how this will play out, but certainly it will have a huge impact on the families in Gaza who are struggling to find clean water, food, and medicine. And just a quick point on what Karen was referring to in terms of the withdrawal. That's another area that we're watching very closely as it relates to aid going in. This plan calling for Israeli troops to begin this partial withdrawal to that yellow line. No other details really available at this point. But Diane, it would mean, based on our initial understanding of this phase one, that Israel would still control about half of Gaza.
Everybody heard that? They're not leaving. So, look, I want the best for the Palestinian people, but I saw this today, and this is what I was talking about. Israeli tanks are stationed along Al-Rashid Street, fired shells directly towards civilians waiting to return to their homes in Gaza City. I saw this morning. So this is what I'm talking about. Right after Donald Trump announced that both sides have agreed to the agreement, they've already planned a date to release the hostages, this happens. Israel was heavily bombing Gaza Wednesday night, even after that agreement was announced. So this, So people wonder, they're like, well, why are they still, bombing them if they agreed to this agreement? Because they want them gone. This idea of peace that these regulators, Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu were talking about, their idea of peace is one where Israel gets the hostages back. And Israel can continue to move forward with the other Arab nations. Remember, Gaza it's not a state. There isn't a Palestinian state. That's all they're talking about, is how Israel can move forward with the other Arab nations. They're not talking about how Gaza can move forward. And this is the warning I'm sending to people. Now, you'll see even here, shout out to Masab for this. This was published 3 minutes ago by Israel. It says that Gaza City is still combat zone and no one can return to it. Peaceful Israel, cute and kind announcement. And here it is here. Coordinator says important announcement to all residents of the Gaza Strip. The area north of Wadi Gaza is still considered a dangerous combat zone. IDF forces are still encircling Gaza City and it is extremely dangerous to return to it. For your safety, refrain from returning north or approaching areas of deployment and operation of IDF forces anywhere on the Strip, including in the south and the east of the Strip, until official instructions are issued. So you can't go to the south, you can't go to the east, you can't go to the north. And you can't go to the sea. because Israel controls the water. Here's that yellow line that they're speaking of. I do want you guys to see this. Here's the yellow line here. They said Israeli forces would pull back here. That would still give them, to that reporter's point, control of half of the Gaza Strip. And I'll be honest with you, I don't even trust that they're going to pull all the way back to that yellow line. I don't trust any of this. The fact that those soldiers, those tanks, they were lined up like that, waiting for Palestinians to walk that path, that tells you everything you need to know. But Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, you see, they don't want you to know all of this. Their job is to convince you that things are on the up and up because Israel's reputation just can't handle it anymore. Just like the lie he told you. Bibi said people are starting to love Israel again. That's a lie. But they want you to believe that. And there is this idea that if you say something enough, if you repeat it enough, that people will start to believe it. And let's talk about these exchanges here, right? Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu's office said that Israel will not release Marwan Barghouti in the exchange. Israeli Army Radio reports that Israeli officials say the bodies of Yahya Sinwar and Mohammed Sinwar will not be handed over, which is what Hamas had requested, that they would get the bodies back, their bodies back, just like they agreed to give Israel the bodies back of the hostages that have died. You see what's happening here? So when Donald Trump said it was a fair deal, a fair exchange, no, it's not fair. And here's another thing I worry about. Hamas agreeing to disarm, it basically causes them to lose any type of leverage. And I still believe that Israel, they'll get those hostages back and they'll continue bombing the Palestinian people. I just don't trust it at this point in time because they have broken several ceasefires. Now, there's this issue of the Nobel Peace Prize. I thought this was kind of funny. Shout out to Clash Report. The Nobel Committee finalized its Peace Prize decision on Monday before Israel-Hamas hostage deal brokered under Trump, effectively ruling him out for the 2025 award. That's coming from the Times of Israel. So no Nobel Peace Prize for you. And I often question who they give these prizes to, right? They gave one to Barack Obama after he bombed all those brown people in Libya. They gave one to Henry Kissinger, the godfather of war. The Nobel Peace Prize doesn't mean anything anymore. They're just handing these out to people who actually not really continuing any type of peace. The Nobel Peace Prize should go to every activist that got on a flotilla to go to Gaza. That's who the Nobel Peace Prize should go to. Now, if you don't believe me, I want you to pay very close attention to what Donald Trump just said after they get the hostages back. Listen to this.
Looking ahead, what guarantees Hamas disarms and that Israel doesn't resume bombing once the hostages are released?
The first thing we're doing is getting our hostages back, okay? And that's what people wanted more than anything else. They wanted these hostages back that have lived in hell like nobody has ever even dreamt possible. And after that, we'll see. But they've agreed to things, and I think it's going to move along pretty well.
Did you hear what he said? Let's go back to here. Pay attention to this.
What we're doing is getting our hostages back, okay? And that's what people wanted more than anything else. They wanted these hostages back that have lived in hell like nobody has ever even dreamt possible.
Imagine saying that after what the Palestinian people have been through. So you see, once again, how they tell everybody that what is happening to the Israelis is more important. Like what happens to them matters more than what happens to the Palestinian people. Listen very closely.
And after that, we'll see.
And after that, we'll see. Why is there a we'll see when he already announced that the agreement was they get the hostages back and Israel will pull out. They will not occupy Gaza. They will not annex the West Bank. This was all in the agreement in the press conference that Donald Trump held with Benjamin Netanyahu. Why is it now after that we'll see? So what that means is that Donald Trump is not guaranteeing that he will not be okay with Israel bombing Gaza after they get the hostages back. This is why I tried to warn people last night. I saw people get really excited, and I was just kind of like, I don't trust any of this, right? After that, we'll see, he said. Look at Gaza compared to Hiroshima. This is Gaza on the left. This is Hiroshima on the right. We have a problem. That's what's happened to Gaza. But people like Ben Shapiro want to tell you, oh, there's no comparison. These paid influencers who are getting $7,000 a post want to tell you, oh, everything's great in Gaza. There's no starvation. Everything's fine. Gaza on the left, Hiroshima on the right. We are being manipulated and controlled by regulators, and everybody's not being manipulated, but quite a few still are. I saw a number of people falling for this last night. Some people I really respect too. And I was kind of surprised, like, you trust Trump and Bibi with this? Because I think Israel is going to continue to bomb Gaza after they get those hostages back. And because Hamas is deciding to disarm, they're not going to be able to fight back. This is where we are, folks. And now they want to bring in U.S. troops. Your brothers, your sisters, your sons, your daughters, now they want to bring them in. That's not peace. It's chaos and destruction. And that's what the U.S. government is known for around the world. All right. Do you believe the ceasefire agreement will last? We have 3,789 votes. 3% said yes, absolutely. 79% said hell no. 18% said I'm hopeful. Interesting. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.